This is Strategy Sunday with Dr. Ken. Thank you for being here. I am your host, Dr. Ken Richmond, board certified psychiatrist, veteran, and corporate leadership coach. I help corporate leaders pinpoint their leadership issues so they can develop thriving workplaces with less turnover, improve workplace morale, and increase organizational performance. Today, we're going to be introducing the word, well, it's going to be the P word, the act of making a difference. As usual, I'd like for my audience members to, put in the comment their thoughts, their suggestion of what they believe today's word is. One of the things that I gave as a hint was to consider this. How does one get involved in various initiatives? So as you think of your P word, keeping in mind that I'd like for you to keep it PG and PC as we go through your suggestions. Let me scroll to the chat. I'm so terrified to look. All right. Hey, Dr. Kadisha, thank you for joining. All right. 3 for 3. Yes, Dr. Kadisha. 3 for 3. She's referring to the number of live streams I've done today. Oh, it's been an interesting and fun day. All excitement, though. All right, so where are my P's? Where are my P words? Let's see what we got. Proactive. All right, so we got a P. Are there any other P's out there? Any other P's? Any other P's for me to consider as we go through today's broadcast, Strategy Sunday? Talking about the P word. Performance, right? Proactive and performance. Very useful terms and action words, I should say. Action words for the workplace. Performance. So we got 2, performance. Excellent. Perspective. I like that one. We're getting warmer. We're getting warmer. Again, there was never a wrong answer because you guys just give me information and kind of some tools that I can use for future discussions. And it also lets me know what you think is important, right? So performance, being proactive. I'm not going to say that word, Susan. You know I'm going to crack up if I say that word. Productivity, yes, productivity. Yeah, Susan, I'm not going to say that word. Okay, so we will move on here to the P word, the act of making a difference. Persistence. Thank you for Victoria for that. The P word, hopefully you guys will agree. The word that we're talking about today is called participation. Participation. Right? As I was thinking about how I'm going to define the word for today's talk, I looked at Merriam-Webster, and they define participation as the action or state of taking part in something. I don't know how it is to you, but that didn't come across to me as something in depth as it could be. So I'll define it today as an action or way of engaging in matters of significant importance. Okay, again, participation, as I'll define it today, is an action or way of engaging in matters of significant importance. Okay, anybody? Does that resonate with anyone? Do you guys think that's a good definition? One that you can at least take to heart? Okay, well, you guys ponder that. As we go into some of the benefits of participation, and we also will talk about some of the costs of participation. So what are some of the benefits of participation? Well, before we get into that, do you guys participate in things like in the workplace, and what type of things are those that you engage in? Right? Some of us are doctors, some of us are top-notch managers in New York. We're all the way in Japan. Some of us are making moves with jobs and employment and demanding our worth and getting our worth and utilizing strategies from Strategy Sunday. I get all those messages, and I appreciate you guys giving me that kind of feedback. But what type of things are we really participating in the workplace? Or it could just be in your life. Let's be general so we can get some responses, right? What are you participating in your life right now? I know I'm supposed to be participating in the gym and working out and all the other good stuff. I have not participated. I will take the loss on that one. But it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. So Susan says participation can stretch your skills. Absolutely. That's definitely a good one. Absolutely. So let me talk about some of the benefits. What are some of the benefits of participation? So when there is an opportunity to allow participation, it increases empowerment within whatever relationship you're engaged in within for your employees. It allows them to feel more engaged and more empowered. It builds a team working spirit because everyone has a say and everybody's voice is heard and not diminished, right? It promotes inclusion, something that a lot of organizations are really focused on doing right now. Have you looked at how you engage your employees, staff in that participation process? It also welcomes diversity. Oh, and we have inclusion and diversity as buzz terms out there now, right? Or at least it's more in the forefront. I wouldn't say it's a buzz term. I just say it's more in the forefront of something that's important and significant for us to be mindful of. A benefit of participation is that it takes into the account social and economic planning. And this could be more of on a high level type of discussion where if a business is trying to penetrate a different market, i.e., let's say overseas, it may be helpful to have participation of the local workforce as you try to make that initiative come to light. Okay. And lastly, the last benefit that I will put forward to you is that it contributes to the evolution of the modern day organization. And what organization today does not want to get to the modern day status, right? They're keeping up with the times, right? All right, let me see what some of you, what some of the other benefits you guys identified. Hey, Jennifer, thank you for joining. Team building, absolutely. Things that bring about positive changes. Great, yes, so benefits of participation, positive changes, team building, inclusion, absolutely. So I'll give you some time in the background to get some more comments about benefits in, and we'll go on into talking about some of the costs associated with the lack of participation, right? Because there's always a cost. As I tell folks all the time, there's always a cost. It's just a matter of, are you willing to pay it? Are you willing to pay it? When it comes to the human capital, sometimes it's a tough decision, but if you can err on the side of building up that human capital and not even dealing with that cost, then that would be the direction I would recommend taking. But let's go into some of the costs. So some of the costs associated with the lack of participation are as follows. One, you have increased sense of dread. People fear things. There's a lot of uncertainty about what's going on. I mean, imagine being, in a group of friends. They're talking in a different language. You don't even know what's going on. Like you can't even participate in that conversation, right? Most would say that's rude. At the same time, right? You got to learn the language, or you socialize with a different group of individuals. But in any event, it would definitely cause a sense of dread, fear, and uncertainty for that individual. It can cause the same thing on a grand scale for an organization if there's not active participation because your people will not know what's going on. It can lead to behaviors to exclude others, which can become a deeply seated reality, right? Because you don't really care for that person's opinion, you don't care for that person's perspective. That can really lead to some deep seated issues because of a lack of participation. And ultimately, can lead to a lot of exclusion. There's something I call an unfulfilled potential, right? And that's typically what I see, when patients are coming in and they're saying, Doc, I know I'm able to do a certain task. I know I should be able to study like everyone else within 4 hours and get the material, but I'm not getting that. There's an unfulfilled potential because you're not functioning at your maximum potential or your benefit, okay? So within organizations, if there's an unfulfilled potential, there's always that risk of, do we grow now? Do we grow later? So there's an opportunity cost by delaying a decision. You also have loss of insights from the folks in your workforce or the folks in your life. You don't appreciate their insights. You don't appreciate their perspective on a certain issue. Ultimately, the cost of lacking participation in the workforce, it can lead to low morale and ultimately high turnover. What are some of the other causes you guys can think of when it comes to the lack of participation, especially in the workplace? Right? Okay. As you know, we're going to transition into the tips and strategies. So again, you're here on a broadcast of Strategy Sunday with Dr. Ken. I'm your host, Dr. Ken Richmond, board certified psychiatrist, veteran and corporate leadership coach. I help corporate leaders pinpoint their leadership issues so they can develop thriving workplaces with less turnover, improve workplace morale, and increase organizational performance. Here are my tips and strategies to increase participation. 1, I needed to flip the script. 2, curtail your meetings. And 3, create recognition value. All right, so let's take a deeper dive into what those tips, so you can develop some strategies of how you can bring them to light. Flip the script, right? So what that simply means is to ask your junior employees, your junior staff members to offer their perspective, whatever it may be. It can seem so far-fetched, but ask for it nonetheless, because you at least now you're more informed by it, right? So this allows senior level decision-making activity to be informed by and with the assistance of others, right? So in other words, I've been in situations where a survey was conducted of a particular unit or a particular office. And when I would ask, if I was asked a question about, so what do you think is going on? I would just return the question and say, hey, so what is your initial impression of the process? The response I would get in turn would be, well, I got a summary of what the responses are. Now, a summary may exclude a one comment that seemed like a one-off, but it could have been so significant for that leader to know is happening within the organization, right? So we can focus on, hey, there's repeated times about, not being told things on time. There's repeated instances of communication being poor, right? And the one comment about sexual harassment or, discrimination was dismissed as a one-off comment, right? But that's a significant comment when you think about it. So the biggest thing is when I say flip the script, if you're doing a survey, read the comments, right? But get the perspective from your junior staff members as well as your senior staff members, but definitely the junior staff members because they want to be included in that process. At least have a voice that is heard. 2, curtail your meetings. We love our meetings, don't we? Right? So given our impressive short attention span, right? I think it's now shorter than a goldfish. Imagine that. They're calling our attention span, or they're comparing our attention span to that of a goldfish. That is insane. Yes, the psychiatrist is saying the word insane. I know. I'll get the backlash on that one. At the same time, our attention span are shorter, yes. And setting and keeping timely meetings will allow your attendees, your participants, to actually appreciate the reality of having an end time. What I mean by that is, oftentimes we have meetings that we have 8 o'clock start time. We're not really clear about the end time. So for meetings that may, go long, you may not have great attendance or your participation may not be as much because they know if they say something, that meeting is going to add another 10 minutes, another 20 minutes, and then whatever plans they would have had afterwards, they can't do it. So rather than do that, they just don't come to the meetings. So my challenge would be, or my tip would be, to recognize if your meetings are too long and whether or not you need to curtail them. And strategy that you can utilize would be to use something called the 6 thinking hats model, right? The 6 thinking hats model. If you're not familiar with that, I'll put the link in the comments below. But it allows you to assign participants in the meeting a specific color of a hat, because each hat would have a different requirement in terms of how that individual would have to think about the problem. So if you have somebody who complains a lot about or always rejects an idea, that's one way of saying, hey, you're going to be this color hat today. And I need you to really hone in on all those things that we may be missing. So a white hat, you may want to apply that to somebody who doesn't talk as much, because it allows them to give you their insights about how they're analyzing things, their comments about trends that may be present. My particular favorite is the black hats, because working with folks with a lot of anxiety, they can anticipate catastrophic events, they can anticipate worst case scenarios faster than anybody can because their mind goes from what we say a pebble or a molehill to a mountain in a very rapid period of time. It's quick, right? It goes from, oh, I didn't eat today or I missed work today, so I'm gonna die, because in their mind there's like, I didn't eat, so I'm gonna lose my. I didn't show up to work today, so I'm gonna lose my job. No job, no money, no money, no food, no food, no energy, no energy. Oh, that the person died. That's the way that mind can work in terms of that anxiety. It goes from 0 to 10 very very quickly. So one way of, I would give that person the black hat because I would want to know those nuances that I may not be thinking about, but certainly someone is, right? And if that is, however, if that is an advanced model and an advanced strategy to utilize, consider doing something um, as simple as assigning at least 2 roles to a meeting. So one person to keep the time. So in other words, you would charge that individual to say, hey, but let me know when we have 10 minutes left on our schedule or 15 minutes on our left on our meeting so that we can end our meeting on time, or we can decide what items need to be tabled, or what needs to, or if we need to request an additional time, and let everybody be, participating in that decision-making process. And you want to have a record keeper, somebody just to keep notes so that, the person who's facilitating the meeting, they're not distracted or taking time away from facilitating the meeting by having to write notes. 2 things that you can do. And if those 2 strategies aren't helpful, send me a message. Third tip, I want you to create recognition value. All that means is that I want for organizations, or something even I do in my office, is allow peer-to-peer nominations for standout activities and efforts to provide assistance to each other in the workplace. So somebody covering for another person while during a lunch break, someone finishing their tasks earlier, and they're able to assist another colleague, right? Recognize that, place value in that, because once people see that you care about them, they may want to be more engaged in that workplace environment. Okay. Now more than ever, with the management of remote staff, as rapidly as that has occurred, that's becoming an essential skill for managers to now master, right? So if you can publicize what your people are doing and doing it on a consistent basis, and this is publicizing at all levels, right? So your junior employees to your senior staff, your senior leaders, your corporate officers, all levels. This will help you combat that invisibility factor that some employees appear to suffer with. No one knows me. They don't know what I'm doing. Or changes happen and we don't know what's the context for it, right? Because they're probably not part of that conversation. But doing so will help you to create a more welcoming work environment. Okay, so again, those are my tips and strategies of how you can increase participation within the workplace. I'm your host, Dr. Ken Richmond, board certified psychiatrist, veteran, and corporate leadership coach. I help corporate leaders pinpoint their leadership issues so they can develop thriving workplaces with less turnover, improve workplace morale, and increase organizational performance. I thank you for joining me tonight on this broadcast of Strategy Sunday.